Hi, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome once again to Ancient Epics, the place where the greatest stories of humanity come back to life. Long before the pyramids became monuments of stone and before royal names were carved for eternity, a quieter power ruled the Nile Valley. It did not march with armies or wear crowns of gold. It whispered behind temple walls, breathed through incense smoke, and moved unseen through moonlit sanctuaries. Along the river that sustained Egypt's body, secret cults shaped its soul. Their rites were hidden from the crowd. Their teachings passed only to those who endured silence, purification, and symbolic death. These cults were not legends invented later. Their traces remain etched into bedrock, aligned with stars, and sealed within chambers never meant for public eyes. The Nile itself was the first teacher of mystery. Each year it vanished beneath the sun, then returned transformed, bearing life from distant lands. This cycle became the foundation of sacred understanding. To the initiated, existence was not a straight path but a rhythm of descent and return. Mystery cults arose to preserve this wisdom, ensuring that the balance of Ma'at, the cosmic order, remained unbroken. While public religion offered prayers and festivals, the cults guarded knowledge believed too powerful for open speech. Among the earliest and most influential was the Osirian tradition centered at Abydos. Osiris was not merely a god of the dead, but the principle of renewal itself. In myth, he was dismembered and scattered, yet restored through sacred rites. In practice, his cult mirrored this story through ceremonies conducted beyond the reach of uninitiated eyes. Archaeological remains reveal underground chambers where light was carefully controlled, and walls once echoed with hymns meant to awaken the dormant soul. The rituals followed the agricultural calendar, aligning human fate with the flooding of the river and the germination of grain. Abydos became a pilgrimage center not because Osiris ruled there, but because fragments of his being were believed to rest beneath its soil. Processional paths worn deep into limestone show centuries of ritual movement. Participants did not merely observe. They reenacted cosmic events, dissolving the boundary between myth and reality. These rites promised continuity beyond death, not through immortality of the body, but through participation in eternal cycles. Alongside Osiris stood Isis, whose mysteries were among the most carefully guarded in Egypt. She was healer, magician, and restorer of order. Her cult emphasized sacred knowledge preserved through sound, rhythm, and precise language. Temple inscriptions suggest that certain hymns were believed to shape reality itself. Magical papyri describe invocations timed to stellar risings, revealing an intimate relationship between astronomy and ritual. Isis's sanctuaries often stood near water or marshland, environments associated with concealment and rebirth. Unlike many cults, the mysteries of Isis crossed social boundaries. Women held prominent roles, and initiation depended on devotion rather than rank. This inclusiveness strengthened the cult's reach while maintaining secrecy. Inner sanctuaries at Philae and other sites contained altars blackened by centuries of incense, evidence of rites repeated with unbroken precision. These rituals did not defy nature, but sought harmony with it, combining botanical knowledge with sacred formulae. Further north, Heliopolis preserved solar mysteries linked to Ra, the eternal voyager of the sky. Priests here were astronomer-theologians who observed the heavens with disciplined attention. Obelisks marked sacred solar points, their shadows tracking time across stone courtyards. The sun's daily death and rebirth mirrored the initiate's spiritual journey, encoded within layered myths accessible only through instruction. Knowledge of decans, stellar groups rising every 10 days, regulated ritual calendars, and reinforced cosmic order. Secrecy was enforced not through fear alone but through reverence. Words spoken improperly were believed capable of unbalancing creation. Thus, silence became sacred. Initiation required purification in water, fasting, and symbolic trials representing descent into the unseen. Only then could sacred narratives be revealed, not as stories, but as lived experience. Beyond temples, the cults extended into the desert. Mining expeditions to Sinai and the eastern desert were both economic and spiritual journeys. Shrines to Hathor marked turquoise mines, where miners carved prayers into rock faces before descending into darkness. These inscriptions remain, blending labor with devotion. The wilderness itself was considered a testing ground, a place where divine favor determined survival. Through these practices, Egypt's mystery cults shaped a civilization that understood power as alignment rather than domination. Kings ruled because the cosmos allowed it. Crops grew because rituals maintained balance. Knowledge was not accumulated but preserved, protected within stone walls and sworn silence. Along the Nile's steady flow, the veiled traditions of ancient Egypt took root, unseen yet enduring. As centuries unfolded along the Nile, the mystery cults neither vanished nor stood frozen in time. Instead, they adapted with careful restraint, preserving their inner truths while reshaping outer forms. Dynasties rose and fell, capitals shifted, and foreign powers pressed against Egypt's borders, yet the hidden rites endured. Their survival depended upon architecture, ritual precision, and disciplined secrecy. Temples were not merely houses of gods, but living diagrams of sacred knowledge, designed to guide initiates through physical space as a reflection of spiritual ascent. At Karnak, the cult of Amun represented concealment elevated to divine principle. His very name signified hiddenness. And unlike other gods, his essence resisted clear definition. Public courtyards welcomed festivals filled with color and sound, but the deeper chambers narrowed into shadow and silence. Reliefs within these inner sanctuaries abandoned narrative scenes for symbolic forms, intertwined serpents, abstract crowns, and composite beings whose meanings unfolded only through instruction. Archaeological evidence shows that access points were deliberately restricted, reinforcing the separation between common worship and inner mystery. Rituals conducted for Amun were timed with remarkable astronomical accuracy. Solar risings, lunar cycles, and seasonal shifts dictated ceremonial calendars. Priests functioned as observers of the sky, preserving generations of celestial knowledge. These observations were not recorded as neutral data, but embedded within sacred myth, ensuring continuity through ritual rather than written explanation. The universe itself became a temple, its movements mirrored within stone walls. The Opet festival exemplified this fusion of public display and hidden meaning. Statues of Amun, Mut, and Khonsu traveled between Karnak and Luxor, renewing royal authority before the people. Yet beyond the visible procession, private rites unfolded within sanctuaries closed to all but the initiated. There, kingship was ritually dissolved and reborn, affirming that power derived from cosmic order rather than bloodline alone. The temple thus served as both political and metaphysical axis. Farther south, along Egypt's Nubian frontier, mystery traditions merged with local expressions while retaining their core structure. Temples carved directly into cliffs reveal an intensified relationship between stone, sunlight, and ritual timing. At Abi Simbel, sunlight penetrates the sanctuary on specific days, illuminating statues in precise sequence. Such alignment required advanced astronomical understanding preserved through oral transmission. The repetition of these alignments across centuries confirms their ritual importance, carefully maintained despite political change. The Temple of Hathor at Dendera presents one of the clearest expressions of Egyptian cosmic theology. Its ceiling displays stars, decans, planets, and sacred boats, rendered not as charts but as divine entities in motion. Priests conducted ceremonies beneath these images to synchronize human action with celestial rhythm. The movement of planets was understood as divine procession, reinforcing the belief that ritual sustained universal balance. These practices reveal a worldview in which astronomy and theology were inseparable. Death cults formed another profound layer of secrecy. Embalming was not merely preservation of flesh but reenactment of sacred myth. Each stage corresponded to events in the story of Osiris, performed with ritual purity and precise timing. Embalmers operated under priestly authority, their work governed by religious law. Amulets placed within wrappings reflected both anatomy and cosmology, forming a protective network linking the deceased to divine forces. The Book of the Dead, often misunderstood as a single scripture, functioned instead as a collection of spells selected according to individual circumstance. Only trained priests understood their layered meanings. Tomb art, while visually accessible, concealed symbolic language decipherable only through initiation. Scenes of judgment, transformation, and rebirth encoded metaphysical teachings rather than literal journeys. Beneath the sands at Saqqara, the Serapeum intensified the cultic atmosphere of secrecy. Massive granite sarcophagi housed Apis bulls, revered as living manifestations of divine vitality. Transporting these stones demanded extraordinary engineering skill, implying collaboration between technical and ritual knowledge. The underground corridors were intentionally narrow and dark, creating sensory isolation. Silence, scale, and darkness transformed the space into a threshold between worlds. Magic, known as Heka, permeated every aspect of cult practice. It was regarded as a creative force embedded within the universe itself. Priests studied herbs, minerals, pigments, and spoken rhythm, combining observation with invocation. Medical papyri revealed treatments that merged empirical knowledge with sacred speech, reflecting a holistic understanding of healing. Disease was not merely physical imbalance but disruption of cosmic harmony. Foreign contact expanded rather than erased Egyptian mysteries. Greek visitors identified parallels between Egyptian and their own traditions, later adapting elements into Mediterranean cults. Yet within Egypt, priesthoods preserved older forms, passing knowledge through lineage and ritual apprenticeship. Temples remained centers of learning, housing mathematical, architectural, and astronomical texts alongside hymns and rites. Even under Roman authority, mystery cults persisted. Philae remained active long after others fell silent, its rituals echoing across centuries of transition. When final closures arrived, sacred objects were concealed, inscriptions unfinished, and knowledge entrusted to stone, alignment, and memory. The cults withdrew without vanishing, leaving behind temples that still whisper of silence, order, and hidden truth. Long after the final hymns faded from temple halls, the mystery cults of the ancient Nile Valley continued to speak through stone, silence, and alignment. Their voices were never meant to survive as spoken confession or written doctrine. Instead, they were embedded within landscapes, measured in shadow and light, preserved in proportions rather than proclamations. To walk among Egypt's ruins today is to move through a language composed of distance, direction, and enduring intention. Temples still face horizons chosen with care thousands of years ago. At dawn, sunlight enters sanctuaries exactly as designed, touching altars and walls once reserved for sacred presence. These alignments are not accidents of beauty but deliberate acts of knowledge. Archaeological surveys confirm that builders accounted for axial tilt, seasonal variation, and long-term stellar drift. Such precision required generations of observation passed quietly from teacher to initiate. The cults trusted stone and sky to preserve what words could not. The desert itself remains a record of devotion. Quarry roads stretch across barren plains where workers once hauled blocks under burning sun. Along these routes, inscriptions carved into rock speak not of conquest, but of prayer. Names of gods appear beside simple pleas for protection, revealing how mystery traditions extended beyond temple walls into daily survival. In these harsh landscapes, ritual and labor merged, reinforcing the belief that divine order governed even the most physical exertion. Modern archaeology has confirmed many ancient claims without unraveling their inner meaning. Chemical traces reveal incense compositions burned repeatedly in enclosed chambers. Wear patterns on floors indicate ritual movement rather than casual traffic. Acoustic testing shows that certain rooms amplify chant while muting external sound. These findings demonstrate that temples were engineered as sensory environments, shaping perception to support transformation. The mystery cults understood that knowledge was not merely intellectual but experiential. Death, the central concern of so many rites, was never portrayed as annihilation. Instead, it marked transition within a greater cycle. Tombs were designed as thresholds, their corridors echoing temple layouts in reverse. Descending passages mirrored the soul's journey inward before renewal. Amulets placed upon the dead corresponded not only to organs but to constellations, binding the individual to cosmic order. In this way, personal fate was woven into universal rhythm. Kingship itself was subject to these mysteries. Pharaohs did not claim divinity through force alone but through ritual legitimacy. Coronation ceremonies involved symbolic death and rebirth, aligning the ruler with Osiris and the sun's daily renewal. Even the most powerful individuals were bound by rites they did not fully control. The mystery cults thus acted as stabilizing forces, ensuring that authority remained subordinate to cosmic balance. The integration of science and spirituality within these traditions challenges modern divisions. Astronomy guided agriculture, engineering served theology, and medicine honored both body and spirit. Observations of the stars regulated calendars, which in turn governed planting, harvesting, and festival cycles. This unity allowed Egypt to thrive within its environment rather than exhaust it. Knowledge was valued not for dominance but for harmony. As centuries passed and political power shifted, the cults adapted their outward forms while preserving inner structure. New gods merged with old foreign names were adopted, yet ritual frameworks endured. Even when imperial decrees closed temples, priests did not resist openly. Instead, they withdrew, sealing chambers, concealing objects, and trusting time itself to guard what remained. Silence became the final sanctuary. The endurance of these mysteries lies not in secrecy alone but in restraint. The cults understood that not all knowledge benefits exposure. Some truths gain power only through preparation and humility. By limiting access, they preserved depth. By avoiding written explanation, they ensured interpretation remained guided rather than assumed. This approach protected sacred understanding across millennia of change. Today, scholars debate meanings while standing before the same walls that once admitted only the initiated. Measurements can be taken, alignments calculated, materials analyzed. Yet the full experience of initiation remains beyond reconstruction. This absence is not failure but fulfillment. The mysteries were designed to resist completion, inviting contemplation rather than conclusion. What remains is a vision of humanity seeking order within vastness, meaning within cycles, and continuity within change. Along the Nile, a civilization arose that treated the universe as a living system sustained through reverence and care. The mystery cults were its quiet architects, shaping thought through silence rather than decree. Though their rites are no longer performed, their legacy endures wherever stone meets sky in deliberate harmony. Each temple stands as a reminder that wisdom once walked softly, guarded by those who believed that the greatest truths were not proclaimed, but lived. If these ancient voices touched your heart today, please consider subscribing to Ancient Epics and ringing the bell so you never miss the next forgotten tale. Thanks for watching.